Good evening and welcome to the Buddy Martin Show Wednesday night edition. Just a couple of seconds we'll be started and we'll have Steve Russell breaking out. He's like watching three games right now. Gets back from the weekend baseball regional. We'll find out what really went on with Sully. With Sully. Almost said Haywood Sullivan, who's a former quarterback for Sully. And we'll talk about that some. Obviously, a lot of interest in the Caglione going up with the Royals. We'll talk to Steve about that. Also, some other news breaking. There's some changes in the softball programs. At least one starter is leaving the team. Just late breaking story that she's gone to the portal. We'll tell you who that is. And then we've got talk about the football schedule and what I call scorched earth Saturdays. Scott Carter will join us midway. We'll pick up with him, and then we'll get to my friend Carlton Reese, an editor, writer, magazine editor, and publisher of books, and a very knowledgeable fan himself, and a very good baseball fan. So a lot going on for you tonight. Tell your friends, neighbors we're on the air, and come join us. We'd like to hear from you tonight. Yeah, go ahead and log in and weigh in. We'd like to have your comments. We post them as often as we can. If they're good, they're worthy. But anyway, tell your friends and neighbors. The Buddy Martin Show is now officially on the air.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
And welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. It's Buddy Martin Show. We're going to go right to the Orange and Blue Room and check out our first guest. Love having this guy on. Very knowledgeable about a lot of things, not just Gators, but that especially. And he's been around for a while. He knows a thing or two. Steve Russell, good evening to you, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, buddy. Good to be here, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Steve. And we want you to coach us up on some things that went on. But before we go there, let's talk about what happened 100 years ago today. I know all baseball scholars know. There was a guy who had a headache, and he didn't go and play. And he sat out, and the guy came in behind him and started for the next 2,130 games for the Yankees. This, of course, was Lou Gehrig. It began on June 1st, 1925, actually, and ended April 30th, 1939. So Cal Ripken Jr. later broke it at 26-32, but we all grew up knowing about the Lou Gehrig story and the famous Lou Gehrig Day. And we saw that great speech he made. And I mean, even though you weren't around when it happened, you knew about it, right, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. The when you get Wally pipped,
Yep.
right? That's where that came from, because it was Wally Pipp that
That's
he
right.
replaced. Sure. And he had a great career, obviously, and if something good came out of that, which isn't much, but at least you understood what that disease was to try to treat it.
A lot of people are familiar with that, of course, ALS. And my wife's husband, when she was first married, died of that, and Tom. And so we would know about it in this family. And one of those things, you remember it for the wrong reasons, but what a great play. I couldn't remember how old he was, because those days, players didn't play till they were 40. That was really old. But you know how old he was when he died?
I don't know. He was in his 30s. I know that. His late 30s. Yeah.
37. I looked it up. I thought he was that old. So he was getting to the nearer what would have been his career anyway, near end, because he just didn't play. I remember when Willie Mays came to the Mets, and I was there in New York and was covering him and saw him in the World Series falling down. That was a terrible thing to see. But anyway, wonderful things that you have done. And and have a day named after Lou Gehrig and Wally Pipp. Before I get any further down, because I got a lot to ask you, and I always wind up going over time when I tell you. I lied to you and tell you it's lesser time. But we got some news in softball tonight. It's not good. I don't know if you heard about it, but Mia Williams is gone.
I had heard that was possible, but now that it's official, and you know what, buddy, it's mildly surprising, but in this day and age, it really shouldn't. You know,
Yeah.
kids transfer now for all different reasons, and it can't be playing time. Obviously, she's playing, right?
Right.
So you know, is it NIL? Is it that it? No one really knows, but that's just that's part of the landscape now, and it's not going to go away.
I just want to tell people who she was. I know you know she's a former of the daughter of the former basketball player, NBA basketball player Jason Williams, also known as White Chocolate. He grew up in Windermere, outside of Orlando. She stayed close to home, went to UF, and a regular fix. He was regular fixture in games, set behind home plate. She had a breakout season this year. She started all 65 games at second base and belted 19 home runs and 44 RBIs, hitting 335 and scoring 52 runs. Now, I will say one thing: her defense lacked a little bit. There were some games where her defense hurt her. Anyway, sad to see her go. Wish her all the best. She had some great honors there, and she, of course, was there with Shoemaker, the great freshman, and Fall being, all that bunch, and she had quite a memory. So, you know what? You move on. I guess you got a better deal today. It's like a job, right?
It is.
So, yeah. Also, not to dwell on it, I know you don't do a lot of recruiting and that kind of thing. There was an unfortunate story about a 17-year-old commit for the Gators who was arrested and charged, I believe, with a felonious assault, domestic violence. And they didn't say his name, and we didn't look it up. But anyway, that's what happened there. It's going to happen, and unfortunately, it happened to this young man. I don't know the status, and don't even particularly like talking about it. But it's part of what we do. We report the bad and the good. Recruiting. Catch up on this, and then we'll move on. The news today. Now they just got this 4-star safety from Milton up here that they like a lot. That was a big get. Also the big offensive lineman who was from Ocala, but really was an IMG. He's 6'5", 315. He's got an odd name. Anyway, now tonight they're trending toward the possibility of, according to On 3. I don't follow it myself. This defensive lineman, Jarayla McCoy, number 197 overall prospect in the class of 26. These are all 26. So that's the latest. I don't know, Steve. What do you do about recruiting?
I back in the day, buddy, I did what I think we all did. I made the phone calls. I would, talk to the coaches, and it was a frustrating thing at times because they would tell you things, end up not happening that way. But the older I've gotten, the more, I mean, look, it's the lifeblood of a program. I get it, but I don't get into it like a lot of people do because number one, what really matters is how they play. I don't care what star you have. How do you perform when you get here? How good are you, when you come to a program? And then, because we're just talking about it, how long do they stay now? We never know, how long they're going to stay. But I mean, look, he's gotten off to a good start, a lot of young talent on this team, and that's been a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, if it becomes an issue now, Billy was, and Dan, of course, was the one that got charged with not being a good recruiter and not caring about it. They used to say Spurrier didn't care about it, but he had some great classes. And now some people are unhappy with Billy and what have you. But today, even more so with the portal, it's damn near impossible to keep up with it all. See, it really is. So
yeah, it's hard.
I mean, really, it changes by the hour. So anyway, we'll check on that. Perry Mason says he misses you at lunch every day. Just so you know, please tell him you're coming back. He wants to know if you will.
You never know what might happen in the fall.
There you go. All right. We hope so. I think we'll see you on the air. We know we have you have too much knowledge, and you're too young, dude. We got to have you back, right? We got to have you.
I don't know about the too young part, but you know, when the 6 month hiatus, when you have to have that when you retire,
Got you.
then we'll see what transpires.
I got you. The other thing is that there used to be in a Denver a post game every Sunday Broncos show, and usually people got in their cups and called. And I wouldn't say I'm not accusing your callers for doing that, but there's a loss. And they've had a couple of pops. You tell me, how tough is it?
It can be tough, but that's what makes the show.
Yeah.
Is that you're getting instant reaction immediately
Right.
after the game. And I will tell you, buddy, sometimes people will call then and have a reaction and then call the show on Monday and have a different reaction because they've had some time to either, think about what they said or, something's worn off from the weekend.
Yeah.
So you get used to that. And sometimes it's hard, when it gets personal. That's the only part I don't like it. I never have. I mean, that show is made as a fan forum, and I love that. I developed that show. I did that, the pre and the post game show when I first got there. So I understood, what that was going to be. But like our society has changed over the years, a lot of times it's become more personal, rather than. And look, you can call and say, "I think he's doing a terrible job. I want him fired." That's fine. That's okay. I just don't want it to go over the line, where it gets personal, and it doesn't happen very often.
But you give them a chance to air their thoughts.
Sure, that's what the show's for.
Not many places they can go and do that, and that you can tell. I've heard it many nights because I'll be going back to Ocala. I'll turn it on, and there you are, and you're trying to placate somebody again about something, or the punter, or the special teams guy, something, but you don't try to persuade them. You let them have their opinions.
Yep.
You give them yours, which is what a good talk show is. So I don't know. I know it's hard duty, but I always enjoyed it because you were the first one on the air, and it's the first exchange. I think sometimes we don't do enough listening to the fans, that we need to give their input and hear what they say. People call them idiots, this, that, and the other. I mean, they have some things to say. I've learned on this show and also on our website that you get a fairly intelligent take every now and then. You think, you know what? That's really worth looking into. I didn't think about that. And I think the level of people that we have on the show and the Gator that follow you are pretty high quality, and they're smart. So we'll see. But regarding recruiting, Billy's brother Kurt lives up here, just north of the Panhandle in Alabama. He's a high school coach, I believe, and he pops up on social media every now and then. I happened to notice a post today from him talking about when Billy was with Saban. He says he was the number one recruiter. Did you know that?
No, did not.
I didn't either. His name is Kurt Napier, and they come here every year on what they call 30A out between here and Destin. They take a place there for a week, and they'll be there at some point in time. So Kurt, and we are going, for people who live up here, we are going to be doing a segment every now and then on the Panhandle podcast, just kind of catching up, because this is a hotbed for college football up here, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about Auburn and Alabama and Florida State, Florida, and LSU. They're all, a lot of those people come here in the Panhandle and hang out here in LA, Lower Alabama, as they call it.
Yeah.
So, all right, so Steve, catch me up on what happened exactly. And I know we know kind of the story, and I don't want to go any further. This is my last night of talking about this. I did notice that Chipper Jones got in the argument today, or put himself in it with some comments without naming names, and clearly he took the side of the Coastal Carolina people. As you recall it, as you know it, tell me exactly what happened.
Sure. For those who don't know, Jeff Cardozo and I were the ones who did radio for the regional. And for those who don't know, there's a routine. when, the Gators always have their team meal 4 hours before, they go to the field, or before the game, should I say. So there are times that changes based on weather, but in this case, they got a very late change, and Sully was not happy about that. It was only an hour difference, but it does change your routine. The hotel has to get your meal at a different time. The bus driver has to become involved in taking his ball field, and he was not happy about that. So Jeff and I came to the ballpark separately, and when we got there, we got to the press box. There was an ESPN production guy who came up and said, "Man, you should have just heard your coach. He just was going off on, some of the people down there." And, he went on to explain some things that he heard. And then once we kind of got wind of, exactly what had happened, there was some words exchanged between East Carolina and Florida, not just Coastal Carolina. And then word spread from the Coastal Carolina people in the press box, buddy, about what Sully had said, to the people who were running the tournament. And Coastal Carolina was the host team for the regional. Florida lost. He was asked about it in the press conference, and I think people now know, what his answers were. We flew home the next morning on a charter, and I had a suspicion that there would be some kind of a meeting because of, what had transpired, that could be heard. In this day and age, I think people have to understand there's always going to be a camera, a phone, or something that's going to pick what you say isn't secret anymore. If it's on a field, it's going to get picked up. And that was picked up, and that went viral very quickly. Now, I don't think anybody knew Coastal's coach was going to say what he said at the end of the game, which that also, went viral.
Added flames to the fire.
Yep. And then obviously, Scott Strickland had a conversation with Sully, and then they released their statement. So that's about, what I can tell you.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of reaction to that, as you know. I went on the site of Coastal Carolina. They were crucifying Sully, you might expect. I mean, it was really brutal. I think we agree, and I think Sully would agree. He wish he hadn't handled it that way. But I'm not going to say he gets any excuses. But I am going to say this: here's a guy who put it on the line, everything he had, and did one of the greatest coaching jobs I've ever seen for a guy who was suddenly thrust in a situation with a team that was 1-11 before they even got started. And there was a foregone conclusion. Florida was history. And he brought them back, and they played. They got to the tournament. They played. Then if you look at it again, I'm not cutting excuses, but he goes out, he plays Eastern Carolina. He wasn't very happy right off the bat. He thought that the pitcher was fast pitching. Remember? Right off the bat.
Yep, right away.
Hey, wait a minute. He's not taking a pause here, So he was unhappy there. And then his team played terrible. His team played his pitching staff just couldn't seem to get anybody out. They made it errors. It was unaccustomed. It's like they hit the wall. Finally, all the things that they'd been doing right, they were doing a lot wrong. They got clobbered. Well, they had to go back and say, okay, let's regroup. And they did. And they came back and they found their bats. They hammered the ball, in the next game against Fairfield. And I didn't know if that meant they were over it or what. But I didn't expect him to come back and get hammered twice like that. And, of course, I don't know what happened or whether Sully ran out of gas or patience or whatever. At that point in time, he was really, really stressed out. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah.
Not making any excuses, because you should never do that. He didn't handle it well, but that's about what I saw. Am I right?
Yeah, I think for me, buddy, the simple way is some of the points that Sully was trying to make, some of the things he was upset about, I think he had a right to be upset about. He just, in my opinion, didn't go about it the right way in making the point. And, I don't think when he did that, he thought it would go viral. I didn't think, because again, no coach thinks, oh, there's somebody with a phone there, or nobody thinks that. So I don't think it was a matter of how the team played. I think he just felt that the time change for the game was done very late. Why are we doing this? Some other things he felt weren't right. But wasn't handled well. But that's the bottom line.
And there was something in there somewhere. Again, I don't know what happened. I listened to there was one hot, like Kevin Rockaway say, hot takes and hot mics don't go together very well. There was some effing going on in there quite a bit in a conversation which was really ugly, and coming from Sully. Presumably, I couldn't hear it that well. But the other thing is that you he has been used to having the bully pulpit. He's had it his way. He's played most of his games at home over the years. He's an unbelievable record. He's used to being in charge and control of most things, and here he was not. And it seemed like that all came out and added to. Again, one of my good friends who's a big Gator fan said he had a conversation with some people who thought he might get fired. And he was talking about other people in other programs. No way Sully gets fired unless he's a felonious assault or whatever. So I guess it is what it is, and now he's got to make some changes. So people he's got some recruiting. He's got to get some arms. Have you heard anything about the new recruits?
Well, there's two things. The portal, just like in softball, buddy, is already open. And for those who don't know, this is the procedure of what takes place.
Right.
When your season ends, if you're away, you fly home, and then they have exit meetings with all the players. And that is done by design, always is. And it's a two-way street. The player can say, hey, coach, I'd like to play third base next year, or am I going to factor into the starting role? He can ask that. And the coaching staff will also say, hey, I'd like you to go play here and work on this. Or, if you want to play more, I don't think you will play more. Maybe it is good for you to transfer. So those things happen. And then what we don't know yet is the draft, right? Because in theory, Kurland, Heyman, Shelton, they could all go. And then you got, serious holes to fill. So that's part of, what's going to happen here too. And then the portal, right? So there's going to be change. There's no question there's going to be change. And I think the biggest change is going to be pitching. You're going to have Friday and Saturday guys in some form with Liam Peterson and Aiden King. Unless they transfer, they're back. So there's your Friday, Saturday guy. Get a Sunday starter, either in the portal or from within. And then depending on who leaves and the pitching staff, and I think a bunch of pitchers will, you'll have to replenish that.
All right, let's bring Scott Carter in here. Good evening to you, Scott. How you doing? Thanks for joining the program.
What's up, fellas?
Hey, man.
I just saw Steve at the breakfast table the other day.
That's right. At the regional, that's right.
Yeah. I wonder, and I asked Scott this too, I wondered if he toyed with the idea of starting King in the first game. I just wondered, and I wasn't sure how he sets his pitching up. I know he has his own complicated chess match that he does, but I thought, well, maybe that would have been a time to start your best guy. And clearly he is the best guy, in my opinion, right now. Steve, do you agree?
He is. He certainly pitched the best down the stretch. I think, part of him, Scott, I don't know if you'd agree, when you tinker and it goes wrong, man, you're going to get second guessed. Mm-hmm. That if you don't start your guy and you start, I don't know, a relief pitcher or whatever, and you get beat, and I don't think he wanted to even think about that. He went with the guy who is his normal guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Peterson was the number one guy all year, and he held that spot, whereas, King moved in later in the season after Coppola was unavailable and established himself. But I think, history showed with Sully. That's one thing I've always admired about the way he manages his teams. I mean, he's really good at making changes when they need to be changed, but he doesn't tinker stuff with stuff just to do it. I mean, so especially this time of year.
Yeah, I agree with you. How old is Sully now?
I think he's 56, 55, 56.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's, 18th season.
I don't know what the book on him is with other people. I hear all kinds of things. Friends call me, whatever. I just know he's a great baseball man. In fact, I had a call in to Jeremy Foley, and we didn't get a chance to catch up to ask him what he saw in him when he hired him from Clemson, Steve. People don't realize he wasn't a head coach.
Right.
And he saw something in him. I would say, I think, you guys tell me, I'm the outsider here. It seems like when you get right down to it, one of the things he does best is the way he handles his pitchers.
Yes. And he also knows how to win. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing that Jeremy, I remember this like it was yesterday, Jeremy and I talking about this, because I like Pat McMahon, good guy. He would even come to the booth for the postgame show. Unheard of, right?
Yeah.
But it was like this. And even with Andy Lopez, it was kind of like that. And he said there's no reason why Florida, in a baseball state,
Right.
should be like this in baseball. We
Right.
need to hire somebody that's going to get us to a consistent level. And, I think we were all a little bit surprised when it was Sully, because, again, he wasn't a head coach. But his record, my gosh, speaks for him. Half the years he's been here, he's been to Omaha.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And if his worst year is going to a regional, that's pretty good.
And I don't know what the scholarship money is now. Obviously, it's quite. I know 100 years ago when I played, Fuller had like 4 scholarships, and he broke them up in half and gave books to one guy, meals to one guy, whatever, to make it go around. Do you guys know how many scholarships he has?
I think it's been 11.7 for years, but I think that's all getting ready to change, buddy. When this revenue sharing, everybody's going to be on scholarships, so that's kind of what it's been. But everything's getting ready to change.
Yeah,
and NIL's there too.
Yes, NIL. So they did. I don't think they had NIL when you were playing, buddy.
Yeah. If it did, I missed it, and I wouldn't have got it anyway. So you know. I know Bernie Parrish did pretty good.
Yeah, they had it in my day. It was called Not in My Lifetime. NIL.
I wish I had some NIL right now, because I see some of these deals, and it's amazing, guys. It's across all sports now. You guys may have seen where Jason Williams' daughter, the softball player, Mia, she's in the portal. Obviously, Kennedy Martin from volleyball. I don't know how much Penn State gave her, but I heard it's very sizable. So it's a different world, and it is what it is, as they say. I mean, I'm fine with it. It's just as long as you reload like Sully always does, it works out.
How about the kid pitching tonight for Texas Tech in the World Series?
Yeah.
Look what she's making.
$1 million.
Yeah.
Hello.
I mean, that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And softball or any other sport, one pitcher can change everything.
Yeah,
yes.
True.
It's every game, I mean, almost. It's incredible.
That's why I guess they see that she's worth that money.
Exactly. Yeah. So before I let you go, Steve, I wish you could. I mean, I promise you I'll only keep it 20 minutes, but we're gonna do this. I'm doing later in the program some favorite nicknames in baseball.
Ooh.
There must have been some great ones. I got a whole list of them, but I don't know. Is there one name that jumps out at you guys? There's a nickname that you like the best.
Wow, that I like the best.
Not necessarily your best favorite player, but yeah. Like, I give you one that's not on the list, Charlie Hustle, which surprises me.
Yeah.
Charlie Hustle's got to be up there. It's a great.
You know where that came from, don't you?
Yeah, because he ran to first base.
Yankees, Whitey Ford.
Oh, Whitey gave it to him?
Yeah. Yeah, they were playing an exhibition game, and
Yeah.
you look at that guy. Look at Charlie Hustle going to first base.
That sounds like why he did it.
Yeah.
It
One that I like, I can't think of one. I remember when he pitched, Roboski, the mad Hungarian,
Mad Hungarian, Al Hrabowski.
because the Braves were on all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought, where in the world did he get? I didn't like that nickname, but I thought, where did he get that nickname from?
Yeah.
But if you think about it,
Yeah.
the Splendid Splinter is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Say Hey is
Willie
kind of
Mays.
cool. With Willie Mays, and there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this, guys. Are there that many now?
Good question. Not as many. I think nicknames in sports is something I miss because there used to seem like, one of my always like, remember Billy White Shoes Johnson in football.
Yeah.
So many guys had nicknames when I was a kid, and you don't hear about them as much now.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I can't, like in baseball today, I can't right now think of a guy with I'm sure there is. I just can't think of a guy like the polar bear, maybe, with Alonzo, right?
Yeah.
But there are not that many. And I think part of that is because, Scott, in your day, Buddy's day, writers would often give nicknames.
Right.
Right.
Magic Johnson, like
Chris Berman.
Yeah.
My gosh, Chris Berman gave hundreds of names.
Yeah. And you don't see that as much because the coverage isn't, what it was back in the day.
Yeah. Here's a few others, and I like these an old one in the Negro leagues. Cool Papa Bell. I think that's great. I love that name.
Great one.
Hey, listen, Mr. October. Hard to get better than that, Mr. October.
That is a great one.
But again, those are back in the 70s, and right, you just don't see as many of them now.
Do you guys know who the Bash brothers were?
Yeah, McGuire and Canseco, sure.
Yeah, and why didn't they get much run? Because they were doing steroids. They didn't hear much about it, but that was a great name, I thought, Bash Brothers.
Stan the Man.
Stan the Man was my
as
first
simple as that is, but
first one. My favorite all-time player, and love that name, and the Thumper, and obviously, and anyway, I don't think DiMaggio ever had one. Just Joe D, I think, was his name. Yankee Clipper, whatever. That was probably his.
Whitey Ford was the chairman of the board.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't get that as much. Of course, you grew up there.
Yeah, that's why.
And I love the stories of Billy and Whitey and Mickey. And I had the good fortune of being around Mickey a little bit later after he was out of baseball, or actually on spring training and going down for the Yankees and the Mets. And every now and then I'd go back, and Bobby Mercer and I became friends, and Mercer hung out with Mickey. Of course, Mickey was that other Oklahoma guy. He was compared to Mickey all his life. He never would do that. And Mickey was always looking for something to do, want to go fishing or something. Good guy. And this one's a great one. Johnny Blue Moon Odom.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Blue Moon Odom. There was an old school one, Vinegar Ben Mizell. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pitcher. Yeah. Tom Seaver was Tom Terrific.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to really kind of, marinate it, but there were a lot of them back in and a lot of them were given by writers that covered the team that came up with names.
Big Poppy.
Yeah. Big Poppy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wally Gator says Catfish Hunter.
Catfish Hunter is a great one.
Jim Hunter, but yeah.
Yeah. And then Shoeless Joe Jackson. Certainly he would be remembered. The White Sox scandal, Shoeless Joe. So, all right, Steve, thank you. Tell folks where they can get your podcasts.
Sure. Just about every place you can get a podcast, YouTube, Facebook. Been doing them on Mondays and Fridays, but because it's getting to the time of the year when people take vacations and don't do these as much, we're going to do the last one on a Friday, this Friday, and then just do them on Mondays at noon. And then we'll see what happens from there. But I appreciate you.
Hope you'll come back with us and do some more. We love having you.
I appreciate you having me, buddy. Thank you. Good to see you, Scott.
Hey, you too, Steve.
All right, buddy. See you later, guys.
All right, buddy.
All right, Steve. Let's continue on the conversation, but first let me pay the bill here real fast, Scott.
Yep.
The folks about our friends at Meldon Law, you know them very well. They're very big sponsors of everything in Florida, and they are very great. They put money where their mouth is. They have wonderful gifts they give away on their Facebook page. If you need tickets or trips or whatever, they're doing all kind of stuff. And so when the season starts, you'll want to go to Melvin Law's Facebook page and see what they're giving away. It's not that hard to win. And also, they like law. They do law, and they have law, and they have law offices now in 4 key locations to serve you, including my residence in the hometown of Ocala, and of course, Gainesville, Williston, and Lake City. And every now and then you need a lawyer, and you need one. You don't know exactly who to call or where to go. Well, that's what you can count on from the folks at Meltdown Law. Jeffrey is good at that. He'll tell you if you say, I got a problem or an issue, he'll say, all right, I recommend this other lawyer, not necessarily this firm, because he thinks he's more experienced and better in that area, and he will do that, for which he gets, I guess, nothing. But he's very good about it. He'll find the right place for you if you need a lawyer. And everybody does at some point in time. I suggest you call our friends at Melvin Law. Melvin Law, they won't back down. All right. So, do you have anything, any football news other than what we think we heard about the recruits? The big offensive lineman from Ocala. Actually, he's not from Ocala. He's IMG, but he's an Ocala kid. And of course, they got the 4-star safety now from Milton up here at Billy's favorite donut shop town in Milton, and is expecting to have a couple other big names drop. They're getting ready to have a big weekend. It sounds like, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, he just had a big official recruiting weekend last week. I was obviously up at the regional baseball, so I was kind of unplugged a little bit from it. But you're talking about the commitments. I think I see on your message board here, it looks like maybe someone else is committed since we've been talking, or at least this evening that I missed. Well, that's that time of year, Yeah,
there's this kid here from Tupelo, the J. Rolon McCoy.
Okay.
197 overall prospect, according to On3. That I guess that's who they're talking about. They're expecting him to drop, I think, too. I know it's hard for you to talk about it because you guys don't talk about it.
I remember last year at the College World Series when I was out there, they had that biggest day ever for Billy. So it's that time of year, as you were saying. Yeah. This is when it really seems to happen for these guys, and I'm sure they're looking for the same kind of results, buddy. Yeah. But you like what they brought in last year, and I think we've talked before. I think the roster is in the best shape in 4 or 5 years. So, but you got to keep replenishing every year. I mean, that's why Sully's been able to do what he's done. You don't win at that level if you're not bringing in top grade talent each year. And we all know that Florida dipped there for 2 or 3 years, and I think it's finally back to that level where it needs to be.
I noticed that Billy's brother lives up here, Kurt, and coaches in Alabama, I believe. Made a comment today on his social media that when Billy was with Nick Saban, he was their number 1 recruiter. I didn't know that, and for a guy to criticize, so
yeah, I didn't see the comment either. But yeah, Kurt was coaching at their alma mater up in Chatham, Georgia.
Yeah,
and I think he may have moved on, but he's been tweeting a lot about the Gators lately. So fans seem to like that.
Saw some good pictures of them Billy growing up that he had too.
Yeah, some pretty different side of things that you don't often see with the head coach.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, this guy here has got some baseball names. I know because he's a baseball nut and nicknames, and we just went through most of them. But Carlton Reese, I wonder if he's any kin to Pee Wee. I don't know.
Let's see another nickname we forgot, Pee Wee Reese.
Pee Wee Reese, yeah. I think of this being Pee Wee Reese any kin to you, Carlton?
No. My dad says that when he was a kid, everyone called him Pee Wee because of Pee Wee Reese.
Yeah.
That doesn't count, though.
Yeah. You guys were not old enough to have heard Dizzy Dean and Pee Wee Reese, okay? Not the best broadcasting in the world. But they were, for many years, they were it with the big ticket items. So good evening to you, Carlton. You know Scott Carter. I know you do.
Yeah.
Hey, Carlton.
How we doing?
Good, right. Good.
I feel like it's been forever since I've been on this show, buddy. I apologize.
Yeah. Well, let me get you caught up here with you and who you are. I want to go through some schedule things with both of you. What I've dubbed it now scorched earth Saturdays, 4 in a row for Florida. That's my term. So when it comes up, Scott, remember I said it first.
That's right.
Saturdays, right? Tell you about
Right.
that. And tell you about Carlton. Carlton is a fine editor and fine writer. Former sports writer, worked for Golf Digest, Golf World, many years.
Golf Week.
Golf Week. I'm sorry, Golf Week. Yeah, sorry, one of the golf things. And I used to read him, and he's been doing this a long while. He's a really excellent writer. He's got it working on a book now with our own Fran Spears. I'll let you talk about it, Carlton.
Yeah, it's basically recapping the glorious national championship season that Florida had, and everything that Franz Beard experienced on the journey with this team, and the great photography of Chris Spears along the way is all going to be in there. There's going to be it's going to kind of rehash a lot of what was written along the way. Plus, there's going to be original material, and it's just a way to kind of recapture that feeling, because I think during the season, even early on when Florida wasn't ranked very high, all of us kind of had a feeling that this could be a special team, but we wanted to see it before we believed it. And then it kind of, as momentum built, we kind of, things came to fruition like we thought they could. And we have those feelings before, but they don't come to fruition. This one did. In this book, I think Franz does a really great job of kind of recapturing that feeling along the way of where they stood at this point, and then at that point, and then, the tribulations with Coach Golden and overcoming that and injuries, and it's a great story that it's kind of a book of record kind of thing for this season. I think it's going to be as good as any you'll see.
Working title, something like, I don't know.
Still working on it, buddy.
Okay. That golden season or something. I don't know. Whatever. That's what you guys are going to do. Well, I know Scott experienced it, and he knows a good story when he sees it. And being around it must have been quite fun. And most of us had a vicarious thrill just watching it unfold. And one of the most memorable seasons of any sport of any kind. And it can never be duplicated, but the boy was great. And I'm telling you, when they came down the stretch, I forgot how far they were from behind. Was it Texas Tech? They behind by 10 or with 4 minutes to go or something, Scott?
Just grab any game.
That
was it.
They came back in almost all of them down the stretch. UConn, Texas Tech, Houston in the championship. I think their first game, obviously, they controlled throughout, but I think the rest they trailed at some point.
Yeah, even Maryland, they were behind.
Yeah. And I kind of joined up on it late. Obviously, Chris does most of our basketball.
Right.
But, if you're going to join late, joining it for the Sweet 16 and Final Four, that's the time to join it. But I was obviously plugged in from the irregular season. And I was like what Carlton said. I had some chats with Chris early, and Chris isn't one to he's not one to give a team a lot of hope unless he really thinks it. And he's like, these guys I think they're going to be pretty good. So that's when I realized, okay, maybe they will.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Yeah, I remember even last year, I thought they should have gone further than they did if it weren't for they had defensive issues and players going out, but knowing that the front court was going to be solid, I think everyone felt really good about that. And even though Zion Pullen was gone, the talent, I think everyone really believed in it. But it's still one of those things that you got to see it to believe it, and we were seeing it as it went along. I think when the SEC tournament started, a lot of Gator fans felt like, I don't care what the pundits are saying, this is the best team in the conference, and they proved it big time in that conference.
I think it's kind of amazing the pieces that they have put back together now. All the guys coming back, and of course with the boogeyman now, Boogie Flan. I guess you'll have to have a nickname of some kind. By the way, did you hear that they're playing UConn in the Jimmy V Classic on Tuesday, December 9th in the Garden?
Yeah,
That's going to be a night right there.
nice
9 o'clock
little
game. Yeah,
rematch.
that'll be fun. Yeah, for sure.
UConn's a bit of an historical thorn for Florida basketball. Even when Florida should beat them, they've either lost or at least had trouble with them. Even in the tournament, I thought UConn had them beat, and
yeah.
Florida just outlasted them.
All
That
right,
was a much better Florida team.
Yeah. What's your favorite baseball nickname of a guy?
Mine?
We've bashed him around. Yeah.
You know, I grew up when Berman started doing all his silly nicknames.
Right.
And I would watch Sports Center just to hear him say Steve Rainbow Trout. And and those. See, my favorite one that he did was John Let It Be Lowenstein. When Lowenbrow, the beer was Lowenbrow, and their motto was let it be Lowenbrow. And he called him John Let It Be Lowenstein. I always got a big kick out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we discussed pretty much all of Chulish Jonas, Dan the Man, to Charlie Hustle, to the Bash Brothers, et cetera. And like Scott said, we don't have as many as we used to because people don't. The writers aren't there to give them, and Berman's not around. So I guess
I just looked up like Shohei Ohtani. I mean, I don't really know if he has a nickname.
He doesn't, as I know of.
I mean, that guy. If anybody needs a nickname, it's him.
What should we call him?
Well, he's the show. I mean, I don't know. He's the show.
Yeah.
It's so tiny. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, Jack Caglione ought to have something. I mean, by the way, we know he started out yesterday or last night. No one's sure he did tonight. He really hit the ball hard last night. He got a couple of hits taken away from him, but he went 0 for 5. He barreled up every time, though, and did not strike out. So, pretty good start for a rookie, I'd say.
Do they call him?
Go ahead, Kurt.
No, I was just. Do they call him Cags? Is that what they call him?
Yeah, but that's just
that's like a baseball. Everybody's going to be called that.
Right.
Yeah, that's how they nickname it. They just shorten their name.
Yeah, but I think I saw some I remember I used to refer to him as Big Jack on social media. Some people called him Jack Hammer. I've seen Jack Tony. So he's got several that they have to pick from, but maybe somebody out in Kansas City will come up with one that will stick.
Yeah, maybe so.
They might call him Simple Jack. You remember from that movie with Tropic Thunder? Did you ever see that?
I have. It's been a while. Yeah.
Well, you if you see it, it's pretty funny. But there's a character named Simple Jack in there. It wouldn't be too flattering.
Pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Yeah. So, all right. So that's the time we have remaining, which is not that much. I want to talk football and what I have dubbed. Here, let me call it up here. By the way, Florida's getting a little bit of play in the preseason polls, but mostly down in the 17, 18, 19 category, although some people got out of the top 10, not many. So Florida is going to have an opportunity to make some noise early or fall off the face of the earth because they've got the scorched earth Saturdays, all right? They've got they open up with Long Island, put that one in W. USF, they ought to be able to put that in W, be 2-0. Now the scorched earth Saturdays start the 13th of September at LSU, night game, okay? On the next Saturday, it's Miami in Miami, all right? Now, I got a few in there because they have an open date the following weekend. They'll need it. Then they got Texas coming to the Swamp in what I think will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest game in history of Florida Field and Swamp and that, whatever, with Arch Manning and what have you. It's Cartesian and the team that people are picking mostly to win the national championship. They're playing. Then they got to turn around and go to Texas A&M. Now, that is a brutal schedule. That's a gauntlet right there, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, you mentioned those first two games. I'm like you, they should win those two games.
Right.
But then that back-to-back LSU and Miami, it's going to dictate the early temperature, pulse, whatever you want to say.
Right.
You don't want to go wrong like last year against Miami and A&M because it took them a little while to get out of that spell and recover. And if you do that again, I mean, this year you don't, like you said, you don't have a recovery game there. Texas coming at you right after the bye week, and with Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, two guys who are going to be mentioned for the Heisman Trophy this year. Yeah, buddy, that's going to be a tremendously huge game. Looking forward to it, but you don't want to be coming into that game on a 2-game losing streak.
Yeah, I got some. Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember. During all the really good feelings at the end of last year, thinking it all means nothing, depending on what happens in Miami and Baton Rouge. I mean, you lose those games, even if they're close, all that goodwill goes out the window. No one cares that those teams are that good. In fact, I'm actually surprised that the pundits have them, LSU and Miami is highly ranked as they are. I was thinking, well, Florida might be slight favorites actually going on the road, but they from what I'm seeing, looks like they're going to be underdogs.
Well, now you finally get to Mississippi State at home, which ought to be a breather. You hope, catch your breath, and hopefully come out of that thing with at least 2 wins. You'd like to get 3. Let's say they get the W's early on to go 2-0, and they beat either Miami or LSU. We'll give them 3 wins. They get the bye, and then they got to play Texas. So let's say that's a loss. Let's say it, although I'm not sure that's the case. And then they get Mississippi State to even things up. Then you think you got out of that gauntlet, and you get an open date. You go right back with Georgia, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, and Tennessee in a row. Wow.
Like you said, if they're going to be good in 2025, like a lot of people think they can be, they're going to earn it the hard way, because it's going to be. I don't know. You have to run the metrics on the history, but this is one of the toughest schedules that I could probably think of in Florida history.
Yeah.
I mean, with last year's was very difficult too. It's kind of reflective of that, just different times and different locations. But it's all. We all know what this story is going to be, guys. It's all going to be is DJ Lagway taking that next big leap.
Right.
We all know that if a quarterback takes the leap, that can change everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's what the season primarily is going to hinge on, because I think they have the talent to be in the conversation for the college football playoff, especially now it's 12 teams. But he's got to lead the way. Yeah,
I agree with that. And then of course you wind up with FSU. You can't count on them being down every year. So that's a tough deal. And then we'll get into the individual units and how good they are. I don't know how much you guys have seen. I saw a video yesterday of DJ Lagway throwing the football. He looks sensational. I mean, he did zip on the ball, and he's built like a little tank anyway, physically. He was ripping that ball around. I mean, there was great authority. And if he's got a shoulder problem, you didn't see it there. So I'm not sure exactly what. I know he's been resting it, but if this guy's right, you see the quarterback rooms, whatever, they got Florida either 4 or higher. I think he might be a little low in the quarterback room, depending on what else they got behind him. And then you would go through the rest of the squad. Let's start with the quarterback. Florida goes as he goes. And then you talk about the rest of the running back room was one of the very best in the league. They got some studs in that running back room. And then they've got a group of wide receivers, the youngsters. I mean, my goodness, the talent they got there. And they're being rated low because people don't know how good they are yet. And then, of course, you have tight ends. That's going to be a big part of Billy's thing. Then we can talk about the defense. Assess the offense for me, Scott.
Well, I mean, I think everything you said was kind of spot on with the receivers. That's where I'm mostly interested to see, like Dallas Wilson,
right,
and Nashawn Montgomery, the young guys, how quickly they pick things up. Physically, I mean, you can look at Wilson, he's a big-time player. So it gives Lagway, you got to think Lagway loves to have that guy around. And Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson, the backfield, that's a really good tandem right there.
Really.
And I think the offensive line, they're always going to, get ripped every game that they don't rush for 200 yards or whatever. But I do think this offensive line is very solid. You got, 4 returning starters. And I think the offense should be the strength of the team this year if DJ's doing what we all think he can do.
Yeah, the Athlon came out just saying gave a high rating to the offensive line for Florida. We didn't need that to know, but certainly. And what do you think here, Mr. Reese?
Yeah, it looks to me like it's an offense that doesn't really have any weaknesses. I mean, there are parts that aren't as strong as others. You mentioned the receivers, but I even think you got to put an asterisk by it because they could end up being very good.
Yeah.
Especially with what's around them. Might actually make them a better unit than they might be on paper. But that's all we're talking about right now is what it is on paper. I mean, are they going to game plan properly for this offense? I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. Are they going to call the right plays? I know the first time Florida goes 3 and out, everyone's going to be questioning Napier's play calling and offensive coordinator status and all that. That's just the nature of the beast with fans in Florida football.
Yeah, every team, I think, and I think we don't want to downplay the offensive line. They're really good, from what I can tell. Well, little I can tell, I don't know. I don't see that much. Defensively, they do have a staff in place, Scott, now, and they got the guy heading the defense up they want. They seem to have their act together the last 4 games. They got some good outside rushers there. I think their linebackers are really good. We don't know about the secondary, especially the safeties, and we're going to wait and see about that. But all they got to do is just be a little bit better. You don't have to be, shut people down. If they could just make a few more stops, think what that team could do offensively by getting the ball back 2 or 3 more times a game.
Yeah, I mean, they made a big leap last year and create more turnovers, so that was positive. And like you said, once they simplified some things on defense, when Roberts took over and really started calling the plays, we saw the results on the field. I like LJ McCray. I think he's a guy who's primed for a kind of a breakout year this year. George Gomes has been better than advertised, so
really
excited about him. And I really liked, Miles Graham at linebacker. We started to see more and more of him last year at the end, and you could tell he's a good player. He's a tough player. And with Shamar James not around, I think it's going to be fine. He'll be a force in the middle there, and I like the speed. Yeah, I think the secondary is kind of the part of the team that you look at, and there's a lot of competition there, and a lot of young players who are going to be competing. But I think the talent again is upgraded compared to the last 4 or 5 years. So you have better talent, better competition. When they get on the field, it's better players. So
that's great stuff, Scott. Now we got about a minute and 20 seconds. I want you to talk about Carlton, your magazine, the O'Callaghan first, and then one generic comment about the defense.
The O'Callaghan inaugural issue came out. It's about a month old. We're distributing it. It's a subscription-based magazine. It's different in the media market and local media markets in that it's all content. It's not advertorial. It's not calendar in nature. It's all journalism. It's integrity. As far as the defense goes for Florida, I think the way things ended on such a good note, everyone's expecting that momentum to carry over no matter what the personnel is. I think their linebackers are underrated nationally. I think the defense is going to be pretty good, but it's going to be the offense that carries this team.
Won't pin you down on that number just yet, a little too early for that, but we'll talk about those numbers as we go along and we'll see what happens. All right, Scott, you got a magazine out, and I know we're talking about doing something in print. You think print's still alive, right, Scott?
I think it is by the reaction of our fans. They like seeing something still in print, and I think it does add a kind of a documented record, like Carlton mentioned earlier. And I was up in Myrtle Beach over the weekend, and I'll be honest with you, I was in a store and I just picked up the Sunday newspaper, and it was a little thicker than a lot of papers are these days. And I was like, well, it's nice to actually hold something and read it. So I think if it's done well, people would still pay attention to it. But I think what's happened with so many newspapers, at least, they just stopped trying. And, well, why are you going to pay attention to it? But if you put out a really well-done product or a printed product with something that's worth people's time, I think they'll engage with it.
Print is beautiful. Print is tangible, and print lasts forever.
There you go.
I'm
Well
all with
said. Great, Scott. Thank you, Carlton, very much. Your calendar. Don't forget to check it out. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being on the program. Good job.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, buddy.
See you
All
guys.
right. Thank you. And we want to thank our buddy Steve Russell as well for the break of the show tonight. Appreciate that. I want to just take a minute to tell you about my sponsors, Titan MRI being one of those. This is a place you're going to get your MRIs, whatever you need in that field, X-rays, etc. Titan MRI and Imaging is acquired high field MRI, and now Titan MRI and Imaging, and Joe Colorio started high field in '97. Now he's back. Titan MRI and Imaging has 3 locations to serve you: 2 in Gainesville with its Park Avenue location, now in Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service. They accept insurance, and they also can help you through the convenient self-pay options. They offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, ultrasounds, easy scheduling with lots of information and options. We'll change it to nighttime if you need to. If it works better for you, they have the large MRI machines for patient comfort. So check them out. Titan MRI and Imaging, located in North Central Florida, particularly in the Ocala-Gainesville area. All right, folks. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Back tomorrow night. We'll have more of the same. We'll know more about hopefully recruiting and other things right here. Thanks for listening to the program. Good night.